same place. Herbie went ahead to the boat to get everything set up and ready, and by the time I was on my way, the entirety of Baltimore got shut down, and I couldn't get to the boat. There's
Yeah,
some
they
kind
were.
of marathon.
Yep. So that. So
um,
she, yeah,
Yeah. So, welcome to everything you need to know about chain plates. This is a really, really exciting video for us because it directly corresponds to what we're doing with both Wisdom and Windpuff. We're going to be talking about lots of things, but our main points are going to be teaching you about chain plates, including all the different materials, pros and cons for each material, internal versus external. And then we're going to talk about what we plan on doing with Wisdom and Windpuff. And spoiler alert, they're going to be different. So we can't
yeah.
wait to let you know what our plans are. And by the time we talk about our plans, you will have all the knowledge and you'll know why we have decided to do what we're going to do.
Yep. And we also had our Patreon Zoom chat last week, which was very eye-opening. And, well, that's why we're going in all the directions that we're going to be going now, because of all the input from all our patrons as well, which was some very good input. Okay.
Yeah, so let's get started. First, we want to just talk about what chain plates are, why they're super important, and why we're spending so much time researching this topic.
I guess that's me. Okay. So, chain plates, at the simplest sense, they are the connection from your rigging to your boat. So, what they do is they transfer the loads that keep your mast up. They transfer those loads to your hull in a way that then spreads out on the hull. So that way, pretty much when the wind hits your sail and the mast leans over, the boat comes with it. Without your rigging, without the chain plates especially, the mast would just lean over and fall, and your boat would stay, which is what happens when there's a rigging failure. It's lovely.
Yeah.
So that's the simplest sense. A chain plate just spreads the load and gives you something to connect to.
So if your chain plates go, your rigging fails,
Yeah.
which is why it is so important. And if your rigging fails, your mast falls down, which is why
Yep.
it's so important to talk about uh, different materials and the pros and cons, because these little things that you don't necessarily think about all the time are keeping your boat together.
Yeah. Now, one really important thing that got brought up in the Patreon Zoom chat was why are there clevis pins? Like, no matter what type of chain plate you have or what type of rigging, it always comes down to a clevis pin to connect the chain plate to the stay in some form. And the reason is that is an engineered and calculated fuse. If something's going to break in your rig, like something overloads it and it's too much and it's somewhere's going to go, ideally that little cheap piece goes. And then ideally also at the deck so you can replace it again quickly if it's not too bad. And so that's the main reason that it's not just a massive chain plate with dead eye holes in it and your lashing goes straight through there, and then take out the weak link, because that weak link is really necessary. So since engineers that know exactly what they're doing and talking about designed and said this is the size of pin that you need for this rig, just do that, because then someone did it correctly, and then you can do whatever you want. You have the correct size fuse. So that's an important.
So, yes. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is the different types of chain plates. So, you might not know, but there are actually a lot of different materials that it's possible to make chain plates out of. And the first one we want to talk about is bronze, because that's the most common and kind of the oldest, right?
It's the oldest, not the most common.
Oh, okay. Well, it's the oldest.
The oldest is iron. Sorry, but no one does iron anymore. That was like the tall ships. Okay.
So with bronze, cost is a big issue.
Yeah, so bronze is expensive. It's amazing. It doesn't rust. It tarnishes, but it doesn't corrode. Like it's an amazing metal, but it's really really expensive. So that's why it was used a lot because silicon bronze is just absolutely amazing. If you put it on your boat and everything about it, all the fasteners, the chain plate, if everything's silicon bronze, in 100 years, it'll still be the exact same chain plate and bolts. Like, and you never have to worry about them. They're done. There's other types of bronze, like aluminum bronze. They have they're stronger, so people think they're better, and then they don't last as long because they rely on an oxide coating on the outside of the metal to protect the rest of it. And if you don't have enough oxygen to replenish that oxide layer, it gets crevice corrosion and it'll crack the same way stainless steel will. So people sometimes use aluminum bronze and think, I'm set. This is excellent. And then it snaps. Like, what the heck happened? So with bronze, it has to be silicon bronze, which is pretty much almost 98% copper and 2% silicon. Nothing else.
Then we've got alloy.
Yeah, so then you have the alloys. So the alloys are silicon bronze. There's also manganese bronze, which has a lot of zinc in it, so you don't actually want to use it. When it goes underwater, it'll dezincify is the term, dezinkification. So it's where the zinc literally comes out and leaves a brittle honeycomb. So it's manganese bronze is super strong out of the water and brand new. But if you heal over and the chain plate's in the water, it's going to start having electrolysis happen to it and galvanic corrosion, and it'll just go. So not great. And then aluminum bronze, like I said, has the crevice corrosion. And there's a whole bunch of types of bronze. There is one, it's nickel aluminum bronze. It is amazing and so expensive, which is why we don't use it.
So you kind of talked about strength and then points of failure.
Yeah, so the main points of failure, if you're doing any two different types of metal, is going to be galvanic corrosion. So if you have, when you have one metal and a second metal, one's going to be more noble and one's going to be less noble. And you have an anode and a cathode. And when you add an electrolyte, which is salt water, there's tons of it out there, when you put all that together, it creates a battery. And that battery will strip from the anode and deposit on the cathode, which means your anode goes away and then you lose it. So that's why you have like your sacrificial zinc on your propeller is called an anode. That's what happens. It gets stripped away and then all the other metals stay safe. If you don't have that sacrificial piece, something important gets stripped away. So that's the issue there. So whenever you have dissimilar metals, that's going to be a point of failure. So you have to make sure that they're electrically isolated and also sealed. That way, if there's no water, then there's no moisture, and then there's no little electrochemical reactions happening in there, and then stuff lasts. So there is a scale, and it's the galvanic scale. And pretty much if the metals are next to each other, you can use them together. If they're really far apart, you shouldn't use them together.
Just so you know, I don't think that your sound is coming through your mic. I think it's the iPad sound.
Oh no! Wait, did it get louder?
No.
Oh. Well, let me just turn this off because it's not doing anything.
Trev, hi Trev. Trev has a good question. So the cost is the reason why bronze chain plates aren't used in internal chain plates.
At all, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, service life.
Yeah. So service life, silicon bronze is forever.
It's a huge plus. That's a huge pro for bronze is the service life.
So it'll last forever. When it fails, it'll actually stretch, and the holes in the bronze will elongate, and they'll turn from a round hole to an oval. And when you see that, now it's time to replace it. So, like stainless steel, if you overload it, it will crack and probably fly apart. But bronze will just give a little. So then when you do a rig inspection and you have bronze parts, you just look. If you see them stretched, you know they've been overloaded and they need to be replaced. But the nice part is the mass stays up, which is nice.
Good. Points of failure. So this is the cons. Yeah, we kind of talked about that.
Yep.
And the sizing requirements.
Yeah, so sizing silicon bronze and stainless steel, you can actually size them identically. So you can switch one for the other. So if yours are, say you're replacing your stainless steel plates and you have, quarter-inch plates and they're like, quarter-inch by 2 inch, your bronze will be quarter-inch by 2 inch. Like you can go tit for tat and there's no issues there.
And then method of attachment.
Yeah, so the standard is bolting them on. That's just the standard way to do it. And you can
use different materials for your bolts too, and that also has an
yeah.
effect.
Yeah, so if you did internal chain plates and everything is sealed and never leaks, yeah, then you can use stainless steel bolts and not worry about galvanic reactions happening because they stay dry. So there's no salt, there's no water, everything's good. If you're external, then you want to be more cautious with using the similar metals.
Okay, so inspectability is the final thing that we're talking about with each material.
Yeah, so all right, with bronze, when it's failing, it stretches. So you see that the holes elongate. You're not going to get cracks. It's not going to rust secretly somewhere. So it's really easy to do. It's literally, yep, looks good, and then move on. It's really nice. The problem is it's really expensive, which is why boat manufacturers don't put it in, and it's also not shiny, so it's not as pretty.
So, guys, I want to take, now that we finished bronze, I want to take this second to also say that since this is a live chat, the way that we like to do our live chats is to include you guys. So if you have any questions about the topics we're talking about,
Yeah.
we would really like to include you in the conversation. So I'm here like looking down constantly because I'm looking at the live chat. So if you guys have any questions, we'd love to include you. Hello, Ricardo. So yeah, love that
Yes.
you're all here. Take this moment to like the video. It helps with the algorithm. And with that, we will continue on.
Yeah.
And
Well, Warren
yes.
had some good questions. So
Mhm.
not a question, it's a statement that bronze is regularly used in rigging screws, which yes, and a lot of times they'll chrome plate them to make them look prettier, so that way they pass for people that are like, I only want shiny stainless steel. Where it needs the strength and it needs to be really good, they'll use bronze and just chrome plate it and then put it on the boat because it really should be bronze. Okay, so rough idea compared the price of stainless steel. A stainless steel chain plate, like when we're pricing ours, just the blank, so pre-made blank that was 1/2 inch by 2 inch by 24 inches long. So pretty big piece of metal. Bronze was $200 and some dollars. Stainless steel was 12. So huge price jump.
Yes. And actually, our next material we're talking about is stainless steel. So, stainless steel chain plates, the cost, which you just mentioned, and then the alloy.
Oh, also,
Yeah.
really quick, some good questions about which ones are we going to be talking about. So we'll just run through it. The chain plate materials we're going to be talking about are, as we did bronze, then we're going to do stainless steel, then aluminum, then titanium, and then carbon fiber. Or, well, composites. Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
So,
Stainless
yes.
steel.
Stainless steel. So you have a couple grades. The two most common that you'll find are 304 and 316. 304 is carbon steel with a couple other stuff added, but the main important one is they add chromium, which then makes the outside surface layer called chromium oxide. It's the defensive barrier, the same way that the aluminum bronze forms the aluminum oxide exterior. So that protects the metal inside from getting any corrosion. And that's why stainless steel then is shinier because of the chrome and doesn't rust because it's protected. Now, if that area doesn't have enough oxygen on it, the chromium oxide layer doesn't form, and then you can get corrosion in there. It starts pitting, and then it forms like a little acid in there that just runs through and cracks, and then you get crevice corrosion, which is usually how a chain plate fails. Like they're just sailing along and it just flies out and it's like snapped with a lovely crack. So 304 is chromium. 316 is where they add a metal that I have trouble pronouncing. It's molybdenum. No. So look it up. It's molybdenum. No, it's in there. But so that metal is just it does not rust. It's an amazing metal, and that's what gives 316 the additional corrosion resistance. Now, in the 316 category, the one that you really want to use is called 316L, which is low carbon. So it is even more rust resistant. Now, there's other stainless steels that are even better at corrosion resistance, but they're also a lot more expensive and therefore, too expensive. So, it's molybdenum. Let me Google it because it's oh man, molybdenum. Here we are. Okay, molybdenum. That guy. Its chemical symbol is MO. So just think of Montana. That's the state that's MO.
I don't even
With
know.
I should know that. Anyway, so it's the one that makes it amazing. So that's that. Mads, where were we?
Okay, we talked about cost, alloy, strength.
Oh yeah. So 304 and 316, they're about the same price, and they're
Missouri.
both incredibly cheap. Thank you. They're both incredibly cheap. So that's the Montana would be MN. Yeah.
Or MA.
Anyway. No, that's Massachusetts.
No, that's Massachusetts. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, U.S. geography, the education system. We are the results. So, so 316 is the one you want to use because it's cheap, it's really really strong, and it's very you can get it anywhere. So it's really good for that sense.
Service life
is 10 years because in 10 years it will develop crevice corrosion somewhere.
Just like your rigging.
Yeah, out of all of your chain plates, one of them is going to be failing soon at 10 years. Oh, yep, we're going to the aluminum stuff soon. Yes. So that's it. It's the standard because it's cheap, it's good. Like I said, it lasts 10 years. So you have 10 good years of it. Some companies like to encapsulate the chain plate with the theory that if it's sealed, hermetically sealed, nothing can go bad on it. The problem is if it's sealed, it then doesn't get air, and then it gets more crevice corrosion. Because water, salt water, will find a way. Life will happen, and corrosion will as well. So
that's a point of failure is the crevice corrosion. That's the big.
That's actually the only flaw, structurally with an island packet is they encapsulate the chain plates. Everything else about those boats is amazing, and then they encapsulate and they keep doing it on all the ones that they make. So it's neat about the molybdenum. Now I can pronounce it. Yeah. So that's and then you have internal versus external. The issue with the internal stainless steel chain plate is you can inspect the part above the deck and you can inspect the part below the deck.
We're gonna get to internal versus external. That's a whole different.
That is okay. Topic. With stainless steel, you can inspect easily looking at the part you're looking at. Now, when I say easily, you have to do some funky stuff. So you need to shine a bright light so that it hits the metal and reflects into your eye, which is incredibly blinding and somewhat painful to do. But when you do that, everything you see is bright. And if you see a black line running through in your vision, that's a crack. So that's the way to spot a crack. So it's pretty much, take your phone and shine the flashlight right into your eye. It's very fun. So you just look through everything and it's shiny. So it has a mirror surface. But with that bright light, you'll see the crack lines running. Now, in case you don't know, I'm a dentist. And in dentistry, we have to find cracks in teeth, and they're microscopic. So I'm really good at spotting cracks, which is why I'm also really good at finding cracks in chain plates and stuff.
It's his superpower.
Yay. So, I've looked at people's chain plates, and, I see the crack from really far away. I don't even need to put the light on it. And when I show them, they're like, where? And I'll take a picture and super zoom in and show them, and they're like, oh, there it is. So it's for me, I see them. But it's if you're looking for it, like that's the thing. When you look at the chain plate, you're looking to prove that the crack is not there. So you assume that there's a crack and you have to find it. So you scour it and really look hard to find the crack. And if you can't find the crack, then you assume there isn't one. It's not look at it to see if it's cracked. It's a different way of looking at it.
So sizing requirements.
Sizing is well, okay. You can do a whole bunch of math, or you can use Skeen's table, which is super easy. And with all your chain plates, like metal chain plates, the chain plate needs to be 4/3 the breaking strength of your stainless steel wire. So if your wire breaks at 10,000 pounds, what would that be? 12, 13, 14,000, something. It'd be, you take, well, let's do, if your wire breaks at 9,000 pounds, your chain plate needs to have a strength that can support 12,000 pounds, because you take the 9,000 divided by 3, you have 3,000 chunks and then 4 of them, so now you have 12,000. So that's the sizing for a standard chain plate. Now, how big the metal is to give you that strength, you can either do all the math based on the yield strength or the tensile strength of the material, or you can just use Skeen's table, and it's like, oh, your clevis pin is this big, and your wire size is that big. Your chain plate is now this big, and you just put it on, and you're done. So it's such a well-used material that there are standards that are easy to just follow.
Which is a pro.
Which is a huge pro.
Yeah. So now we have gotten to aluminum. Did we cover stainless steel all the way? I think we did. Talked about strength, service life, points of failure, sizing requirements, method of attachment.
The same bolts.
Yeah.
Well, not only. So they'll also do like strange shapes and then glass those in and bed them in. So there are different ways of doing it, but it's still like stick it to the hull, normally with bolts.
Okay, very good. So with that, we're going to move on to aluminum.
Yes. So aluminum is commonly used only on aluminum sailboats, because if you have an aluminum hull and you attach any other metal to it, why would you do that? You're putting similar metal together and it's going to wreck everything. So for aluminum boats, they use aluminum chain plates. Aluminum is soft, like it's not as strong as steel, so therefore they're just really big by comparison. Cost wise, it's not that bad because it's aluminum. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really good if you need to use it, but otherwise people don't usually use aluminum chain plates for like a fiberglass boat, because it ends up being so big that now everything's just bigger and then harder to do and manage. So
is that all you want to say about aluminum?
Well, it also creates the aluminum oxide, which protects it. Like it has the outer layer. Yeah, it's a good thing if you need to use it, but if you don't need to use it, stainless steel is so cheap that why would you use aluminum?
Okay.
My personal thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have titanium.
Okay, so titanium is awesome. It's expensive, but it is awesome. Oh, don't put steel pins. Oh, yes. Yeah, if you're doing aluminum, everything has to be aluminum because dissimilar metals. And if you don't, you have to either put Teflon between them to separate them and insulate them, or like all sorts of stuff that you have to do as added steps. And then your points of failure are going to be galvanic corrosion, and quickly. Like if you have stainless steel into aluminum and you didn't put an isolator, it'll just bubble away into white dust fast. It is really, really bad. So that's why it's like, if you have an aluminum boat, then you're well versed in dealing with aluminum. If you don't have an aluminum boat, kind of avoid it. Yeah.
Quickly, we've got 63 people on here. Woohoo! Awesome. Take a moment to hit like so that the YouTube algorithm helps us along a little bit. If you're liking the video.
Yeah. And if you're not subscribed yet, great time to hit the subscribe button.
Yes. Okay, so moving on. So we've talked about, for those of you who have joined us just now, we've talked about bronze chain plates, we've talked about stainless steel, we've talked about aluminum, and now we're going to talk about titanium.
Yes, titanium is amazing. So it is super light, super strong. Like it's lighter than steel, stronger than steel. Ideally, in a wonderful world, it'd also be cheaper than steel, but that is not the case. But
The big downside to titanium is the cost.
yeah, it is really expensive, but it's it's so strong that you can actually use a much smaller piece of titanium to get the same strength. So that means that not only is it lighter, but then you get to use a smaller piece, which is also lighter. Yeah, I don't get that one. But so it's like we don't go into politics here, guys. Sorry. uh, so like just in general, if something is smaller, it's then automatically lighter, and if it's lighter, then with the Caligo, I got a thing. Oh, we'll go into that. All right, if it's smaller, then it's also lighter, and then it itself is lighter. So it's like it comes out to be super light. So if you're building a high performance boat and weight matters, yeah, titanium's the straightforward, no brainer thing to do. Okay, with titanium, there's different grades, just like there's different grades of aluminum, different grades of bronze, different grades of stainless steel. So the aerospace grade is either 5 or 6, I can't remember, but the marine grade is 7 or 12, not the others. The others, their service life will be about the same as stainless steel because they will get crevice corrosion, they will get pitting, they're going to have issues. Caligo, the one that they sell, is the aerospace grade, which is great for airplanes, but airplanes do not sail the seas. They fly in the skies, so they have a different environment that they deal in, and it's not the ocean surface. So that's one thing. Like aerospace sounds really good, and it is for airplanes, but not boats. So just if you're gonna pay titanium money, get the right type of titanium for your boat. So you need at a minimum grade 7, ideally grade 12. That's the big thing. Those will not get crevice corrosion. Like those will last a lifetime and like forever, like just as long as bronze. But they cost so much more. So really, the only reason to go with titanium is if you're trying to save the weight, because otherwise, for less money, you could do silicon bronze as well and have the same results in lifetime. It's just going to be a lot heavier.
Okay.
Yeah. So cost, it is incredibly expensive. The aerospace grade, it's like for a sheet, it comes out to be it was a few $100s to make one of our chain plates instead of uh, $200. And then the grade 7, I wasn't able to get a price because it was the uh, click here to request a quote, which means if you have to ask, you can't afford it type of price. Like I could not find the price listed anywhere, but yeah.
So, I mean, besides cost, what are the cons to titanium? Like, what are the points of failure?
Yeah, well, if you have the wrong grade, crevice corrosion. Uh, crevice corrosion is the big one. You're going to get salt in there. It's going to get hot. Since that's just it. It'll fail the same way as stainless steel. But if you have grade 7 or grade 12, it doesn't. Like it extremely high heat in hydrofluoric acid will not make it create crevice corrosion. So
There are no
it's amazing.
weaknesses.
Not really. You can machine it, you can bend it, like you can do everything you need to do with the stuff, and it won't go bad. Like it's amazing. I guess its big downside is that it's not shiny because it forms a titanium oxide layer on the surface, and that gives it the protection. But the grade 7 and grade 12, like even if they're in an oxygen deprived area, they don't suffer the problems where the oxide layer fails and goes away and then they fail. So it's really good. It's just really, really expensive.
Okay. Anthony Strawbridge says rubber bushings and mount pads, silicone and polyurethane, shock loading reduction. Brick, can I please ask you to stop?
Now I'm curious what Brick was doing. Oh yeah. Oh, there you go.
Clogging up the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Does titanium react with other metals? Not really. It's pretty amazing. Actually, Titania was talking about how if you have aluminum chain plates and you put a titanium pin, that there wouldn't be an issue. Now, I haven't looked into that, but well, Brick, are you going to stop? Because otherwise we will block you or you'll time out.
Did you answer Anthony Strawbridge's question?
I think so.
Okay.
Hi, Morty.
Morty's here.
Yeah. Okay. Anthony Strawbridge. I'm sorry. What was it about the reactivity with other metals?
Rubber bushings and mount pads, silicone and polyurethane, shock loading reduction.
Yeah. There shouldn't be any play in the rig. So, like when it's loaded, it's not. I don't think it would really do that much. I've never looked into it because everything is always metal on metal contact because it's not moving, so therefore you don't need to worry about wear. But if you're sailing along like close hauled, your leeward shrouds are slack, and then when you tack, it's going to flop over. The windward shrouds go slack, and the leeward shrouds that were slack are now going to snap tight. So like, there are shock loads, but everything's engineered to sustain those shock loads. So I don't know if going those extra steps is really worth it. For electrical isolation, yes, that would be nice. Like you kind of have to isolate the similar metals in that way.
Did you talk about methods of attachment?
Oh, it's the same. You bolt them in. Yeah, pretty much all metal chain plates, you bolt them.
And then inspectability.
Inspectability with titanium, if it's the correct grade of titanium, you just look at it, make sure it's still there. That's it. If you have incorrect grades like the aerospace grade or lower grade, you have to pull them off and you have to check for pitting. So it's going to be just really in depth. You're looking for tiny pinholes that are about 1 millimeter or less. They're tiny, and the surface should be machine smooth. So if you run along like a tiny metal pin and it like pings in there, you're getting pitting and you're starting like that's the area that crevice corrosion is going to start forming. So if you're paying for titanium, pay for the right titanium. That's kind of the thing. Like if you have a sports car and it's summertime, don't put winter performance tires on it. Put summer performance tires. That's kind of the logic.
Yeah. I just think this is really funny because it would not be a Rigging Doctor live video if somebody didn't bring up lightning.
Oh. So all the metal ones conduct electricity and will, if you have steel rigging, they'll transmit the current into your boat where you're then screwed anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
the question, did you see the question?
I did not.
Okay. It's are any of the materials better at surviving a lightning strike?
Oh, yes. Stainless steel rigging, aluminum or steel mast, and any metal chain plate with massive cables that run from them to a dynaplate for lightning grounding on your keel. So no, you're screwed. You got like it's a force of nature.
Yeah, we always kind of whenever we get a question about lightning, the answer is don't get hit by lightning. It's just, and how do you not get hit by lightning?
Be out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, I mean,
there's lightning near shore. When you're out you don't see as much.
It's so rare. Like it is so rare. So if you're boat building or looking into sailing and lightning is what's stopping you, like
powerboat.
don't let it stop you because I mean the odds are that you're not going to get hit by lightning.
And then, well, another thing, it's not the tallest boat or anything. Like sailboats are literally boats with a lightning rod on the top of them. Like it just sticks straight up in the air. And we have a friend that got hit twice in one cruise with wooden masts. And he wasn't the tallest mast in the anchorage. It's like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So just don't worry about it. And when it happens, it blows out all your electronics. So the more fancy electronics you have, the more you're going to be replacing. If you have lights and a radio, you're getting lights and a radio.
Okay. So
Yeah,
moving
that-
back to
yeah.
chain plates. Our final material that we're talking about is carbon fiber, and that's the big one that people probably want to know about, because we've done a lot of learning about carbon fiber in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And we talked, this was the whole topic of our Patreon Zoom call, was talking about carbon fiber, and we got some really good information from our patrons. And Herbie's been reading like crazy. So here comes our section on carbon fiber.
Yeah. Okay. So with all the metal chain plates, you size them to be 4/3 the breaking strength of the steel wire. That's the standard. With carbon fiber, you size them to be 20 times. And the reason is carbon fiber does not like shocks or stress, or it. If you hit it the wrong way, it'll just crack and shoot off. So not good. So the workaround is to make it so stinking strong that it won't hurt. Like you hit it with a sledgehammer and it's like, oh, a mosquito bite. Like that's the workaround to it. So you just make it so stinking strong that it's then okay. Now the downside is that if it fails, it's catastrophic. Like it goes. So that's the main drawback. But yeah, it is amazing. It is so strong, so light. Like you build it up to be immensely strong, and it's still lighter than an undersized metal chain plate. It's amazing. I love this stuff.
Yeah. The cost.
Cost is not too bad. It's about on par with bronze. So, okay, the cost for the carbon fiber itself, like the best price I could find was from Total Boat, and it was $45 per yard, and the yard is 50 inches wide, so you're getting a lot. But and then from that you cut into the ribbons that you need to make, and you build it from there. So you get a lot for $45, but you need a lot of it as well. So the carbon fiber adds up, but that's not the big cost. You also need a vacuum pump to do a vacuum bagging, and the pump is $1,000. And then you need all the equipment for vacuum bagging, and then you need all the resins, and everything adds up to be about the price of bronze.
So the big con for carbon fiber that we kind
Yes, we'll
of
get it.
figured out just by talking it through was just the sheer amount of work that it would take to build them. Especially since it's a material that we're personally not super familiar with and have no background with. It would be a lot of learning, a lot of trial and error, and just getting all the equipment and materials together. It would just take a really long time. And that ended up being the big con for carbon fiber. Whereas bronze is known, and, it's kind of like really cut and dry at this point since it's so old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other big thing, like bronze chain plates, it's a standard. It's a metal chain plate. So you take off what you have, you put on the new one, and you carry on with your day. Carbon fiber, it's a completely different way of doing. So instead of being, fastened with fasteners and, fixed in place, it's bonded and molded into everything. So it's like it's apples and oranges.
The other thing about carbon fiber, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it would have been good. Carbon fiber is best if it's internal.
Oh, that's just so you don't have to fare the haul.
Right. So okay. So that's just more like whether you want to do the extra work. Okay.
Yeah. Like if you're building a new boat, in the layup of the hull, you can include the carbon fiber bands for
Mhm.
the plates.
But if
You
you already have a boat,
Yeah, if you have a boat, it's easiest to do them internal because then you don't have to fair and repaint the outside of the boat.
right?
Yeah.
And then so with internal, you have the cons of internal. Um, but
Well,
some of them don't
sort
apply because it's carbon fiber.
yeah. So a strange thing, even though it's carbon, and you think of carbon as trees, and it's a metal, and it reacts as a metal, and it's when you attach stainless steel fittings to it or bronze fittings, they're dissimilar metals, and they have reactions with each other. So you'll get galvanic corrosion, and the carbon can actually get damaged in that. So like you have that to think about. So then you have to isolate the carbon from any other metals that they might touch, which is easy to do by using fiberglass in the places that you're going to be doing stuff.
So, so we've talked about cost, alloy.
It's not an alloy. It's
Yeah,
just
there's no need to talk about alloy.
well, there's different weaves, and all of these weaves you can look up on the manufacturer's page, and it'll tell you what's the tensile strength, compressive strength, like all those fun features of the material data sheet. Just look at them, pay attention to them, and you can size them accordingly. Like some of them, the tensile strength will be 500,000 psi, which is like how 500,000 pounds that a square inch can pull, and then others will be 750,000. So it's like it really matters depending on the weave form. So you just pay attention to it and then size accordingly.
Service life.
Service life should be indefinite if it's
Right.
built so strong that it's never stressed. So
Right.
that's if you build it to be just strong enough, you're new. You're the guinea pig for that one. It's kind of like when we did our synthetic rigging and went out into the ocean. We were the guinea pig. How long would it last? We hope a long time, but we didn't know at the time because it was new stuff. Now we're age 9 for our rigging and it's still going strong. So in the future we'll have this information about how does carbon fiber last if it's undersized, but at this time we don't know, so everyone's just oversizing it by 20-fold, so it's a lot.
Method of attachment.
So you can fix it with fasteners, which is cool, but you can also bond it in. And if it's bonded, sorry about the noise guys, it is so windy right now. If it's bonded in, it's then part of your hull. So you pretty much would, if you're building the boat right now, you would bond it to the hull. Like it'd be part of the layup. If it's after the fact, you'd bond it to the existing hull, like the stripped out hull. Like no coring, no insulation, like no, pretty curtains. Like stripped down to the strongest bit of your hull, bond it in there, and then lay up glass over it so that it's now kind of sandwiched in. That way it's tied into the boat. But yeah, young barnacles actually had a rotten bulkhead and replaced the bulkhead. And when they were building the new bulkhead, they built the carbon fiber chain plates into that bulkhead. So that's a really cool way. Like it's new, and when you get the stuff, it's literally off. Like you can do whatever you want with the stuff and put it here, you can put it there, you can do all sorts of shapes and make it however you need it to be, which is so awesome about it because you can build it to fit whatever you want, however you want it to be. It's really cool stuff. And then it's so just so strong. Some key things you got to do though. You have to know about the loading path. So if the stay comes at this angle, the chain plate can't come off like this or like this because then you're pulling on a small part and it'll crack. So whatever angle your stay runs, it has to run as well. So if your boat's fully built out and finished, like our case, and the stay angle's something wonky, you're gonna gut out a lot of your boat to put it in.
So yes, some of you in the comments have guessed based on our reactions to carbon fiber and our little chat about it. We have, for wisdom, we have strayed away from the idea of carbon fiber. Because we have plans to go sailing this summer. We want to sail the Chesapeake. And we don't think that we would be done. It's just that simple. We don't think we would be done. And with having like a son now, and our time is split in so many different ways, and we just want to go sailing. um, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, and we got a little bit nervous about working with the new material in with a time constraint. So we did decide to do bronze. Um, and we are going to, at this juncture, our plan is with Windpuff, our other boat, our Allberg 30 that we are currently rebuilding. We are, since it is already a gutted boat, and we kind of, it's a blank canvas almost, we decided to attempt carbon fiber chain plates in Windpuff. So we are still going to, as of now, our plan is still to learn about carbon fiber and attempt carbon fiber chain plates with Windpuff.
Yes.
But for wisdom, we're going to stick with bronze. Now, one thing we're doing with wisdom is we are moving from internal to external. So a big discussion with chain plates that's really important is whether you want internal chain plates or external chain plates. And there are major pros and cons to both. Although the biggest pro for internal is aesthetics. And so, am I right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
okay. There's another thing. There's also sheeting angles for your head sails. So if your shrouds are at the tow rail, then your sheeting angle cannot be any further in than your tow rail for an overlapping head sail. So if the boat's really beamy and the head sail can't be sheeted in tightly, you can't point as far upwind. So if you move the shrouds, the chain plates in, you move the shrouds in, then the head sail can like sheet in tighter, and you can point higher upwind. That's the performance advantage of having internal chain plates.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reporting this guy in the comments.
I already did that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so yeah, what we're doing on Wisdom is we currently on Wisdom have internal bronze chain plates.
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel. We currently have internal stainless steel chain plates. We're switching to bronze, and we're switching to external. So, do you want to take them to see?
Oh, yeah, we
the
could
chain
do.
plates.
Yes. Oh, guys, apologies for the disgust, but here we go.
So Herbie's going to take you to our current chain plates, and you will see why it is so important that we are replacing them now.
Okay. Camera around. Okay. Actually,
So this is our head.
Okay. Let me get some light. 1 second, guys. Grab my cell phone here, and that's now a flashlight. Okay. All right. So, guys, this is the stainless steel, like that guy there. That's the stainless steel chain plate that comes in. It looks beautiful, I know. And then it bolts to this lovely iron bar that runs down, makes a pretty little twist right there that's just rusting away. And then it comes all the way down to here where it bolts. And it is just beautiful. Same deal on this side. So it's just so rusty. So yeah, this
You
is
can
our
actually like when you like it comes off in sheets.
Oh yeah, actually, there's some fresh rust on this one. I can let me see where. Yeah, it's like it's real bad. That's not supposed to do that. So that's the current situation. So what we're gonna be yeah.
You continue.
Okay, so what we're gonna be doing is, well, actually, my plan for today is to unbolt all the metal stuff that's in here, and then start glassing up to bulk up the side of the hull here, and then prepare it for the bronze. All right, I'm gonna come back around. Spin that there. Hi guys. mind me.
Now, I just want to talk about pros and cons of internal chain plates.
Well, we also didn't finish the carbon fiber.
We didn't?
No.
Oops.
Okay, so we covered cost, we covered strength. Points of failure are if it gets delaminated. That's like the main one, because if you build it strong enough, it shouldn't fail from stress or strain like that. You also shouldn't position a chain plate in an area that's going to get hit, because your rigging shouldn't be taking strikes. So if something's like flailing into it made of hammer, something's not set up properly on the boat. So the big thing is if they're incredibly strong and can't fail in that method, the next point of failure is delamination. And delamination's hard to spot because and this is the one that like killed it on wisdom. So if it delaminates from the hull, the kind of the best way to spot it is to take a little sounding hammer and just tap on the hull. And if it sounds solid, you're good. If it sounds delaminated, now what? So the issue was in our Zoom chat, they're talking about, well, it's only an issue if you're, say, pounding against the seawall in a bad storm overnight, or if you like hit a reef or something like that. And we've had where we went up on a beach and the inside of the boat was like punching around. It was, whew. And then in the Azores, when we first got there was a horrible storm, and we were just like everyone was pounding on the seawall. And thankfully, we had our rope fenders, so no damage to our boat. But pretty much everyone's inflatable fenders popped, and there was one boat that it gouged through their hull. Like it was bad. So we just took a beating, and then after that, we sailed to the next Azorian island. It was no big deal. If it was laminated to the hull, that constant pounding could have caused delamination. And if it delaminated, now we have to fix that. So if you're in a remote area, or you're, say, in the Azores where they do have epoxy, but it costs $300 per gallon, that's expensive. Like in the States, you can get it for $100 a gallon or cheaper sometimes. So it was so expensive to do that. So that part, we're like, ooh, no, not on this boat. Now, another thing that our patrons are telling us about is that you can manufacture a composite chain plate and then bolt that to your hull. So you'd pretty much build it up so that the plate itself, like it's an external chain plate or internal, however you want to do, but it's a plate that you bolt. And the nice thing with that is you don't worry about delamination issues. The problem is, especially if it's external and you're pounding against something, is if it cracks. Yeah, so it has its downsides. If you use the boat as a boat and not as like a bumper car, you're good. But if you're cruising,
but you can't plan. You can't plan for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you're cruising, you're part bumper boat.
Yeah, if you never know if somebody's gonna drag anchor into you, or there are things you can't plan for, and that made us a little nervous because we tend to do some pretty intense cruising on Wisdom, and we go to a lot of, in Europe, for instance, it's normal to tie up to a seawall,
Yeah.
so that freaked us out a little bit.
Yeah, and then on Wind Puff, since we're going to gut the hull down to the bare, like we're going to gut the whole interior, I can then build it up in such a way that like they'll be under stringers. Like it's going to be so deep into the hull that I'm not really worried about it coming off. But in this situation, like this here, I'm not going to rip it out that much. Is that, well, for the forward lower, I'd have to take out a bulkhead to then run those carbon fiber strands in the correct direction and angle, and then put a bulkhead back. I'm not doing that. That's too much. No. So that's what did it.
We want to go sailing. We just want to go sailing, guys. So clearly we can't sail with what we've got right now. It is not safe. It is not safe, and we don't trust it. So very soon. And Herbie's already started the project. He's already begun um,
Gutting.
gutting and getting. Yeah, our
Oh,
head doesn't usually look like that.
yeah. Then we're getting the chain plates sand casted, and I hope it's okay that I say your name, but Warren's got a hookup, so we're getting like the chain plates are going to cost less than $100 per plate. They're a little smaller. They're not 24 inches long. They're only 18. But and then cost wise, how the chain plates were going to be like $200 a chain plate. They were going to end up costing $1,100 for 12 chain plates. Was the cost in 24-inch length, and now they'll be like 600 ish, and then the bolts to attach them, the cheapest I could find after you guys gave me a whole bunch of people for fasteners was going to be $900 for the chain plates. So we're looking at $2,000. We can do all the stainless steel chain, or we can do bronze chain plates and then stainless steel fasteners for just it's 160, I think it was, for like all the bolts. So we're gonna do that, and then we have to do all this isolation, and there's a whole bunch of extra steps we need to do, but it can be done.
So, in order to see all those steps and everything, watch the videos that are coming because we're going to be filming them. I mean, we're really caught up in real time right now. So, like, part of the reason we're doing this live video is here we are. Like, we don't have content.
Yeah. Also, last episode you saw me strip out the head, and you
Yeah.
saw it. It looks the same because I haven't taken the chain plates out because that's what I'm doing today.
So yeah, after this live video, Herbie's on the boat. Thankfully, he was able to get there.
Yeah.
And he's trapped there now. So he's going to do some work on the chain plates and do some filming and everything. So you guys will be watching this project pretty much in real time as the episodes come out every Sunday. Now, I do, for the interest of time, I want to talk about internal versus external because I think
Yeah.
it's really important in any discussion about chain plates. Um, Pros and cons for internal. I mean, cons kind of outweigh the pros in our opinion, which is why we're
Well,
switching to external. But a big con that we have personally had to deal with a lot is leaking because you do have that hole in your hull
in your deck.
deck.
Yeah. So yeah, the leaks are a huge one, and then the problem is you get the leaks. Salt water comes in and gets on all the metal in there. And the worst part is the uninspectable area. So earlier I started talking, and then Maddie was like, "Wait, that comes later." So you can see inside and you can see outside. You can't see the section through the deck, and that is a big section, and it's full of bedding compounds. So therefore, there's now no oxygen. But then there's always a little leak, and salt water gets in there to an area that has no oxygen. So the chromium oxide boundary layer that forms on the outside of stainless steel isn't there. You get pitting, you get crevice corrosion, the sucker snaps, and it'll look perfect above and perfect below. But then one day it just comes out of your deck. So uh, decks are made of, it depends what your boat's made of. Fiberglass. Normally there's a wood core in the deck, but the chain plate goes through the deck, and in that section it's bedded in, and that's where you're gonna get your problem. So the only way to properly inspect the stainless steel chain plate is to yearly, tell me that doesn't suck, unbolt and remove all your chain plates, pull them out, look at them really closely, put them back in. That's a turd job. So uh no one wants to do that. So if you're external chain plates, you don't have to worry about that because you can just look at the sucker and see if it's good. So if you had external stainless steel chain plates, well, sort of, you're good on the outside. The layer inside that mates up against the hull, that can still get crevice corrosion if there's a leak and stuff gets in there. So you should still pull those off often. But I mean, you can look at the outside and see generally, is it good? Is there a crack starting on one area? Time to replace it now. Where if it's internal, you cannot see that part ever.
So the big problem is inspectability. So you can't. It's impossible, almost impossible, to fully inspect an internal chain plate. And obviously, we've talked about how important chain plates are to your boat and it being a boat and staying a boat. um, if they're holding up your rigging, which is holding up your mast. And so if you miss something, it's just you can't ever trust that it's perfect in there. Whereas external, you still have a little bit of issues with that, but it's not nearly as much. The big thing about external is that you see them. So aesthetically, some people think that that's not as pretty. I think it's pretty cool. I like the kind of steampunk look that it creates, but to some people, they'd rather hide that inside the deck
Yeah.
hull.
And Warren noticed that all the French boats are now going to external, which is cool. So, yeah.
So,
But well, yeah. So the big thing when you have external chain plates, now the load goes from a bulkhead or something like that to the hull, and then that load now needs to be transmitted somehow into the boat. Uh, Strange comment. So the if the hull itself is strong enough, like in our case, we're bolting to the hull itself, so we're beefing up the hull to make it strong enough to take it. The other way that it can be is that it bolts to a structure inside, which then transmits the load on down and in. So there's all these different ways to accomplish the job, but the main thing is, whichever way you do, you gotta engineer it properly.
yeah, I think some of these odd commenters are coming because I'm on our other YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
So
it's
since
probably people see like this because we have another YouTube channel just for Charlie and Jerry, our macaws.
yeah,
And in order to both be in this together, we our problem
yeah,
solving was just to do a joint live video with
lifestyle.
two of our channels. So so
Yeah,
I'm on Pirate Parrots, which is our channel that's just for our macaws, and Herbie's on Rigging Doctor, and therefore some of our fun commenters here are coming from the Pirate Parrots probably.
I don't know. The people in Pirate Parrots are really nice.
They are. They tend to be very
Yeah,
nice. But I'm just
I,
wondering like what
I just wonder what.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
so as to not get off track, sorry about that, guys. That was my brain just figuring that out.
yeah,
Uh, and oh, if you want to follow Charlie and Jerry, just head on over to Pirate Parrots and hit subscribe.
yeah. Well,
So yeah, internal versus external. Um, with the
well,
carbon fiber, I think we're gonna go internal for wind puff. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
The internal is going to be wind puff is going to be internal and integrated into the hull because
Yeah. So like melded
I,
in, like
yeah, like I'm moving bulkheads in that boat. So when we put in the new ones, we'll put in all the. So that one's going to be like a full engineered thing. The this one we're doing external. Now, one thing when you go external, you don't fix your problem of leaks because you don't have one hole in your deck. You now have like 3 to 7 holes in your top sides per chain plate. So you have more holes that can possibly leak. So it's not I fixed it. It's trading problems.
yeah, sorry, I was reading some comments. Anyway,
I'm not worrying about the comments.
yeah. Good. So I think that we've pretty much covered chain plates. If you guys have further questions that we didn't get to in this video, please feel free to ask them in yes.
Well, there was a big one. It was a comment
Oh,
earlier
good.
that we didn't get to about the carbon fiber chain plates.
Yeah.
The question was about UV. So carbon fiber itself,
Mm.
no issue with UV. It is totally fine with it. The epoxy that holds the carbon fiber together will degrade quickly with UV. You can get ones that are like more UV stable, but they can't be left out. So you're gonna paint them. So when you paint it, then it's harder to inspect because you can't look at the fibers and see like how's everything looking here, you guys, like because it's covered. So uh, if you don't paint them, the sun's going to eat it up and it's going to rot. If you do paint it, now you can't see it. Now, you don't have to only use carbon fiber for composite chain plates. You can also use E-glass and S-glass, which is fiberglass, which then you don't have any problems of galvanic corrosion between the similar metals because it's glass, not metal. So, or because the carbon's a metal. So you can do that, and they're just going to be even bulkier. You still want to shoot for the same 20 times strength, but then it's just made out of fiberglass entirely, and it's really strong, and it's just like the rest of your boat. So it's really cool. I like this stuff.
Right. So,
Yeah. So that's the UV.
have you made renders for your new boat's booty?
No, but we got it built, and so that's the other thing. We were gonna do the carbon fiber on Wisdom. It was gonna take a long time. Spring is almost here, and I want to be done with this so I can be working on Wind Puff to get that booty on there as soon as it's warm enough. So I don't want to be tied up with this until we go sailing, and then it's fall, and then I'm like struggling, and then the boat sits another winter. So yeah, that was the other thing. It's like bronze chain plates. All I gotta do is beef up the fiberglass inside, beef that up, and then we bolt the suckers to it, and we're done. Nice, quick, easy. It's a system and a material that I'm used to because I've done chain plate jobs on other boats. So it's like it's just a chain plate job. It's just normally I do them tit for tat. Like the people have an internal chain plate, I take out their rotten one, or replace it with a new one that's milled exactly the same. Here I'm moving stuff, so it's a little different, but it's still like a known quantity. And then we can work on wind and get the trend put on because my goal is to be done with Wind Puff's top sides and bottom. So take out all the through hulls, seal everything up, sand, like strip it down, and then paint it and have it pretty looking on the outside. Launch it and tow it to Baltimore. And then in Baltimore, we're gonna like in the water, we'll fit out the interior. So we'll be doing the mast, the rigging, everything. So that is my goal. But to have it done by winter, I need to work on it sooner. So it's like my time is torn between Wisdom and Wind Puff, and yeah. So that's the situation there.
All right, guys. Because we have gone over an hour here, I think that we are good. We've managed to talk about chain plates for 67 minutes. And we could go on, as you can see. And by we, I mean Herbie. But
He's getting bored.
We can definitely continue this conversation in the comments of this video once it goes public. And we're so glad that you guys joined us. This has been really great. We have been wanting to make a chain plate video for a long time, and now was the perfect time since we're about to work on Wisdom's. So if you do want to see Wisdom's chain plates as they progress, do watch our videos every Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. We put out a new episode, and we'll keep you posted on that. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram. We do real live updates on both of those platforms. So we really appreciate your support, and thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
And thanks for bearing with us with all of our technical difficulties.
Yeah. Next time will be the work I'm going to be doing right now.
Yes. All right, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I don't know how to stop it.
Yeah, I think this will do it. Bye, guys.